I'd like to call to order this meeting of Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners. I would note that all commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Bartrek, who's excused. That is. There's one excuse today. This is the regular meeting. We will start with Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. So I would ask that the pledge tonight be led by Commissioner Johnson.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome. I would note that the board did meet in executive session before our meeting, and we discussed matters of litigation and real estate. We'll begin with petitions, complaints from citizens. Does anybody wish to address the board tonight in public comment session? Yes, please come forward, state your name. Please come up to the podium. The podium, yeah. State your name and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes, if you would.
I definitely will.
Name and address, please.
My name is Jody Eberly. I live at 307 North 30th Street, which is very close to the Pembroke line, kind of almost in Edgemont. I'm here tonight to talk about some quality of life issues in our neighborhood. We recently had a ice cream social in our neighborhood, which allowed about 30 of the neighbors to get together. And I didn't realize how many of the other neighbors felt the same as I do, that the quality of life in our neighborhood is diminishing. We feel that car stereos are rampant. We hear car stereos all day and night long. We've had a rash of car break-ins this summer. Part of that's Pembroke, so not blaming everybody here. We have a huge litter problem. We're right down the street from Wendy's, and it just seems that everything that gets purchased at Wendy's gets deposited on our street. We've had drug use out in the open. That's pretty much just been this summer, but it's a problem. And we just feel that we don't get the attention that we used to. The stop sign at 30th Street and Locust Lane, cars just blow straight through. I mean, it's like a lawless neighborhood. And I don't know, I'm just here to express that there's a lot of people in that area that feel that our neighborhood is not getting the attention that it should. We all see the police setting down at Cricket Mobile, sitting up in the median strip by Turkey Hill, and the other neighbors notice this too. And I just feel like they should be in the neighborhoods, not sitting in a business. You know, I mean, I realize they can't be everywhere, and I don't think this is entirely a police problem. I think it's a social problem too, but neighborhood wasn't like this 10 years ago. So I don't know. Just a concern. Thank you, folks.
Well, thank you for your comments. Chief, will you please take note of that? And thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to our agenda. Approval of minutes from our August 8th, 2019 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second. Moved and second. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the August 23 workshop meeting.
Motion to accept.
Second. Moved and second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, recognitions and presentations. Chief, do you have anything for us tonight?
I do.
All right. Sharp, Chris. Oh, those coughs.
Black tie affair.
Beautiful.
Yes, sir. Officer Justin Doyle, front and center. Mr. President, members of the board, I have a request for promotion before you tonight. And I know that this young fellow looks like we probably just hired him from high school yesterday. However, he's actually completing his 10th year of service with us. He entered service with the police department on May 1st, 2010. Throughout Officer Justin Doyle's career, he has exercised leadership and sought out additional responsibilities through his 10 years. He's a former member of the Dauphin County Crisis Response Team, a current member of the Dauphin County Accident Reconstruction Team, a weapons armorer, and recently became one of our field training officers. He has been the recipient of numerous awards to include the Life Saving Medal, Award of Merit Medal, and recently the Unit Platoon Citation. So it gives me great pleasure to recommend for promotion to the rank of Patrol Officer First Class, Officer Justin Doyle.
Need a motion on that?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I move that we promote Patrol Officer Justin Doyle to Patrol Officer First Class.
And I second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? Comments? All those in
Justin,
favor?
this is your opportunity.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Well, two little girls here from Justin that when I mentioned there's cake in the police station waiting, they became very excited. So we're going to get them over. We have cake.
I know, right?
Bring yourself.
Chief. No, yeah, it's like,
I'll slip it in the back door.
Ice cream?
No ice cream.
Congratulations.
yeah, congratulations.
Briefly,
you
I'd
very
just
much.
like to point out, not only do we share a name, but youthful good looks as well. So congratulations, Officer Doyle.
I second that, John.
All in favor?
One eye, come on. That's what I get.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Let's go get cake.
Come on.
All right.
Let's go with cake.
Daddy, come this way. Oh, wait, this way.
You're welcome to stay. Let's get out of here.
There's cake over there. You kidding? Thanks for coming.
Yeah, right.
All right, reports of committees, buildings and grounds, Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report, although I would ask if there's any update from our manager on the solar project. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, the current status of that is they are working with PP&L on the interconnection agreements.
Okay, still working on that.
Those are currently under review by PP&L at this point. We also just did receive word that the roofing contractor for this building, that was part of the solar project, they're looking at commencing that activity here shortly. So they were asking about some of the permitting requirements and so forth related to the roof structure. So things are moving along.
Okay,
Sure.
good. Thank you. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Excellent. Budget Finance, Commissioner Sanderson.
Yes, briefly, we had a meeting scheduled, but we had to reschedule because we're still collecting some data. We're rescheduling that for the next couple of weeks. So maybe by the end of, maybe by the second meeting of the month, we'll have more to report and discuss and help to start planning. Certainly, this is the time of year to repeat myself, as we've all considered it. If you have any particular questions or preferences, something that should go into the budget, this is the right time because it's all about discussion and planning. It's not about the hard numbers right now. Certainly that's what a budget is. It's an educated guess, but we know a lot of what our expenses are. But if you have anything that's really weighing on your mind, please send the questions along. Let the committee, let Manager Kratzer know, or let any of us know.
All right.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Public Works, Commissioner Napper.
Yes, Mr. President. In the month of August, the Public Works personnel checked all pumping stations and handled all the PA1 calls and sewer complaints. A sinkhole investigation took place in Ward 3 on Locust Lane. And in Veteran Park, Commissioner Fleming, the wooden boards were replaced on the walking bridge. Finally,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was
finally, Mr.
a
President,
mishap on opening day.
in Ward 2 and in 8, the Public Works personnel removed the speed humps on Crooked Hill Road near Deer Path Road. This ends my report.
That is much appreciated too. Thank you. Thank you, Public Works
Sanitation.
Director.
Commissioner Sanderson.
Yes, again, we're pleased to say that we've negotiated successfully with Penn Waste, and I think at the last meeting, we agreed to finalize it. So we'll probably be getting some news about that in the very near future. Details should be coming out on social media and on the website and from Penn Waste. So the good news is, in the short term, we've locked in some rates, and in the longer term, we've limited expenses and we've added services. So it's a very good contract that was signed early. We don't have to worry about this now for 5 years. So I'm pleased to let you know that I think the service that we've been getting will continue and will actually improve in some ways that we haven't received. So that's all. Thank you.
And there's some good news for it is early, but there's some good news for the low volume folks in that they won't need to come in here and buy bags or send away and buy bags or however they get bags. They can use their own either bags or bins, take out their trash, and that will go into effect, should the board approve it, January 1st. So, no, I concur with Commissioner Sanderson. It was a good set of negotiations that we had with Penn Waste. Doesn't always happen.
Did you say they no longer will have to purchase bags?
Right.
So you can just use your own bags?
Yes.
Right, so they're actually looking at transitioning low-volume service to weekly service. So unlike now where people are managing 26 bags over the period of time, they will have the ability to put a single bag or a single can out every week of the year. In addition, the other enhancement for the low-volume customers is currently they're required to pay annually for that service. They're actually going to be breaking that up into quarterly installments. So those that are on fixed incomes perhaps that need to budget for those expenses will now have the ability to pay that bill quarterly as opposed to a single lump sum. So there's some significant enhancements in terms of the low volume folks.
Well, that's awesome. That sounds good.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys.
All right. Administration and personnel.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Police, Commissioner Engel.
No report.
Thank you. Fire and EMS, Commissioner Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to report some statistics, year-to-date statistics in terms of our volunteer fire company responses. Progress Fire Company that thus far this year has had 612 requests for services and responses. Their average response time has been about 90 seconds, and their average manpower on the response has been 10 personnel. For Rescue Fire Company, they have had 514 requests for services and responses. The average response time has been a little more than 3 minutes, and the average manpower to each response has been 9. And for STEMS in the month of August, they had 323 emergencies, which is an average of 11 emergencies per day for STEMS. And so I will, we mentioned it a few times, but I will take the opportunity to mention as well for please consider signing up for a STEMS membership. It saves you significant costs if you need to be transported in an ambulance. Whether you're a resident in Susquehanna Township or you work here, if you work here and have an accident or emergency at work, you can save significant costs in terms of ambulance transportation should you happen to get sick. So it's a worthwhile investment, and it helps our emergency services personnel tremendously. So that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you. Recreation, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Parks and Recreation Department operated 2 summer programs from June 17th through August 2nd. Both the day camp and playground programs were a great success, with well over 200 kids registered between the 2 programs. The summer day camp was full to capacity every week, and the program numbers were the highest seen in the past 5 years. Kids in both programs received meals through the Dauphin County VOTEC Summer Feeding Program. There were a total of 23 field trips taken this summer, including Lake Tobias, Little Buffalo, bowling, skating, mini golf, and the Pride of Susquehanna. Both programs also visited the Latchmere Pool each week. While not on field trips, the kids enjoyed arts and crafts, sports, and games. There were a total of 28 employees for the summer program, with 24 being residents. The majority of the employees are college and high school students. This concludes my report. However, Manager Kratzer, can you talk about the meeting that you were a part of yesterday, recreation meeting?
Sure, I'd be happy to Commissioner Johnson. So yesterday, as many of you are aware, the Board of Commissioners met jointly with the Recreation Advisory Committee for purposes of starting a discussion about evaluating the activities of the department, making sure that we're staffed appropriately, making sure we're evolving in terms of people's desires, in terms of program offerings and the like, and just trying to chart a general direction for recreation from an operational staffing kind of perspective. So we were fortunate, we received a DCNR grant in the amount of $10,000 for purposes of having a peer consultant come in that's a rec professional that has experience working in other communities to come in and do a comprehensive evaluation. So yesterday, again, there was a series of open-ended questions that the consultant had posed to both bodies in the interest of trying to refine the scope to make sure that he's appropriately delivering what we're expecting as a client. So it was a good meeting, and it was well attended.
So are we looking at any enhancement to the current programs, or deleting some, or it wasn't that?
Yeah, well, it didn't go into that granular detail. I mean, I would imagine that those are all discussions that'll have to take place at some point, but this was a higher level discussion, so it did not go into to that level at this point.
Well, thank you for that report.
No, thank you.
And the whole reason for this is, we're kind of at a crossroads. The township's getting older, do the things that made sense for us in the 70s and 80s still makes sense for us today and going forward. So it was a very good discussion between commissioners and the Recreation Advisory Committee on what do we do? Where do we go from here? I mean, what makes sense for limited budget dollars and the amount of land that we have available, or that could become available? Where do we want to take that? So, and he's a good guy. He's well credentialed, and I think he can do a lot to guide us on which way to go.
Is there any consensus about, or it was just a lot of discussion, throwing out a lot of ideas?
It's a lot of discussion. He's going to boil everything that was discussed down into a proposal.
Okay.
It's going to be submitted to us and to
DCNR.
DCD?
DCNR.
DCNR.
Yeah.
Okay.
DCNR. And then we'll go from there. But ultimately, it's going to be up to us.
Right.
This is like kind of shining a flashlight on things. Like, where we go? It's a new era. And it's actually a great opportunity to reshape our educational or recreational offerings to people in the township. So.
Just one last question.
Yeah.
Was the school district involved, or that's something that possibly later may occur, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a potential to have those conversations. The district's involvement came up during the course of conversation. Particularly when we were talking about facilities, that was a topic of conversation, as was, is there an opportunity to partner with either nonprofits in the community that may have space that's available for programming? So, for example, some of the churches in our community have gym space. Is there an opportunity to utilize some of that space in order to enhance the programming that's offered here? Is there an opportunity to even partner with private providers as well? So I think all of that are points to be discussed as we move forward.
And just one last question. So when's the next meeting?
So the next meeting of the RAC is scheduled for
The second weekend.
second Wednesday of the month, yes.
Right.
And the RAC would actually like to make this a more regular event. It's the first time the board in a long time has met with the RAC or the board. So, and I think there's some value in that. If not once a quarter, maybe twice a year.
Okay.
It was good to see that enthusiasm among RAC members too.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Planning and zoning, Commissioner Rothrock.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a planning commission meeting held on the 26th of August. There was only one item on the agenda, which was the neighborhood design development ordinance amendment, which was presented by Charter Homes for a 23-acre parcel for an 80-unit residential neighborhood. This amendment has been discussed and revised a number of times, and seemed to have come to a final form that was acceptable. and so therefore approval was recommended by the Planning Commission. We will have a presentation on that later in this meeting for our consideration. Also, there was a zoning hearing board meeting on the 4th of September. There was one case on the agenda, which was the proposal by Harrisburg City to establish a composting facility. At that point, both sides had already submitted written summations of their positions and their arguments, and they were given an opportunity to give those in a verbal form. Then there was deliberation by the zoning hearing board, and they unanimously denied the request for a special exception. I'd like to thank the intrepid Edgemont folks who came out for meeting after meeting and hearing after hearing, and I think it's gratifying to know that their voices were heard. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very gratifying night. All right, bids and agreements. Authorize the township manager to execute required documentation to execute a change in the investment manager for the township's 457 plan. Mr. Cratchit?
Sure, Mr. President. So the Township's 457 plan is a voluntary supplemental plan that employees have the ability to participate in. There's no mandatory participation. There is no employer contribution into the plan. It's entirely pre-tax contributions submitted by the employees. One of the vendors that a number of our employees utilize, or I should say the investment manager that many of our employees utilize, has switched firms, has gone from Burn Wealth to operate independently, and recognizing there is this degree of comfort, recognizing there is no direct cost to the township, recognizing that there's relationships there in terms of the individual participants with the advisor, we're recommending a change in that in the investment manager for the township's 457 plan to reflect the new firm in which this individual works for.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next is authorization of execution of the agreement of sale for the 2002 KME fire engine. It's between the township and Susquehanna Fire Company number 1.
So again, at your last meeting, there was a discussion on this issue. This is an older engine. It's an engine that was utilized by the Edgemont Fire Company. It's the engine that is currently being rented by Duncannon. If you recall, we have an offer from Susquehanna Fire Company number 1 in York Haven, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $30,000 to purchase the apparatus, and that agreement of sale that you had authorized your solicitor to prepare is now before you for your consideration.
Pleasure of the board. You want to move that?
What's the pleasure of the board?
It's the pleasure of the board.
Yeah, what's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second.
I mean, any comments?
The question, so where does the money go in, and how does this work? Does it just go in the general fund?
No, the money will go back into the fire fund. So again, you had authorized certain, capital purchases, for example, recently out of that fund. It'll just go back into that fund to be used for either operational issues related to fire or additional equipment purchase related to fire. But the revenue will go back into the special purpose fire fund.
Okay. Do we have any funds set aside, any money targeted to maybe provide some improvement to the Edgemont Fire Hall for the building? And I know I'm coming in the final hour and asking these questions, but I know y'all are prepared to answer.
Mr. Johnson, I think that's probably part of an ongoing discussion that we need to have about Edgemont in its future. Obviously, we've been talking about new possibilities for that.
Excuse me.
Can you grab a mic?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, that one's out?
Yeah, there you go.
They've stolen my microphone. It's right there. And with 3 teenage daughters, I generally don't need to project, but let me do better. Commissioner Johnson, obviously, I think as we talked about at the last meeting, the president has asked some of the members of the Board of Commissioners to work on the future of Edgemont. And we've been talking, as you know, about some possibilities for that facility. So I think absolutely a discussion should be had as part of that discussion that the president has put forward about how we're going to use those monies and how we're going to address that building. So the answer is yes, but I think there's some more conversation that has to go on.
There's nothing concrete.
Nothing concrete yet. Thank you for the microphone.
We do have a working committee to work on a solution for Edgemont.
Did we meet yet?
Yes.
I missed it.
Anyway, it's an ongoing, like the Law Bureau said, it's an ongoing dialogue. And, I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. It's an ongoing dialogue, and there'll be much more to come. We have a meeting next week, and
We can talk about that later.
we'll talk about that later. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Cone Road Hotel, Ava Group.
I think there's another. We skip one.
Did we?
Resolution 1923.
Oh, sorry, John. This is a resolution amending Susquehanna Township Authority Articles of Incorporation by adding a new paragraph to include stormwater planning, management, and implementation. Mr. Ben Reed is a counsel retained by the authority in the township to help us in the incorporation of the stormwater management fee approach. Can you help us out,
Thank you.
Mr. Reed?
Ben Reed with Equity. It's a pleasure to be before the commissioners, and we're very pleased with the opportunity to work with the township, excuse me, to partner with the authority to manage stormwater in the township. So the first significant legal step in the process of empowering the authority is to amend the authority's articles of incorporation so that it can expressly take on stormwater management. We were before the authority board on Tuesday. We prepared a resolution that authorized all steps needed to amend the articles. The articles of amendment were an exhibit to that resolution. The resolution was adopted. It's been submitted to the commissioners in signed form. And the next step pursuant to the Authorities Act is to have the township, the incorporating municipality, adopt a resolution that authorizes the authority to proceed with amending these articles. So before you is a very brief resolution. I think it was already presented to you, but I handed it out just in case you didn't have a copy, that creates the necessary authorizations to give direction to the authority to amend its articles so that it can undertake stormwater management. If this resolution is adopted, we will be advertising in general circulation newspaper, Patriot News, and the Dauphin County Reporter Legal Journal, notice of intent to amend articles, and then put it all together, file with the Department of State Corporation Bureau, and very shortly after that, the authority will have necessary power to work with the township, and then from there, there'll be a number of steps working as a team with HRG, who's been on the task for many months with the authority to handle all the other steps of the legal process to really get this up and running in the near future. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Move to approve resolution 19R23.
Second.
Moved and seconded. As Mr. Reed noted, the authority did approve this. I guess basically recommending the Board of Commissioners to make the changes in the Articles of Incorporation because this body created the authority and approved subsequent changes to its charter over the years. So it would enable the authority to do, on behalf of the township and our stormwater needs, what's needed to be done in terms of maintenance and compliance with state and federal statute. That makes sense?
That's it.
Wow.
Perfectly safe.
All right.
And then, so it's been moved and seconded. Is it question time? Okay. And then, like, who is the arbiter then legally? Once, if this is approved, will it ultimately be the authority that sets the projects for stormwater management, or will it be this board?
No, it's a great question, and the township is the holder of the MS4 permit that DEP handles. So the permit.
Uh-oh.
Doesn't like what I'm saying.
Maybe it's current. Is that other mic turned off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's off. Oh, Tuesday night.
So,
Nothing you're doing.
so the township will remain the permittee. Down the road, there might be a co-permittee process with the authority. There's a lot of different things to be worked out. There'll be a management agreement or an amendment to your existing sewer management agreement, which really defines the roles and responsibilities between the township and the authority. It's a real partnership.
Yeah, and recognizing, of course, that we have representation from this board on the authority board as well, so, okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reed.
Sure.
And as a practical matter, some municipalities in Pennsylvania are permitted to impose the stormwater management fees, and others are not. Townships of the second class were allowed as of 2014, I believe,
That's right.
by statute, but townships of the first class, all of Susquehanna, they haven't been touched by the legislature at this point.
Yeah.
So you need to work with a partner that has the authorization to carry out this kind of program, and that would be our authority.
The authority, perfect. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anybody else have any questions or observations? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Reed.
you very much.
Appreciate it. Here comes Ms. Logan. Cone Road Hotel, Ava Group.
Evening. This is a request to reduce the site improvement guarantee for Cone Road Hotel, Ava Group, from $233,397.45 to $5,500. The township engineer reviewed the request and recommended approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. That's occupied now, right? Doing business?
Yes.
Okay. And do we know what's left, Mr. Grubik, in terms of improvements?
Just one item, that being the rain garden that is associated with the stormwater management improvements. That has
Okay.
not yet been completed, so we're holding that money for.
Gotcha. Okay, good. All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is Herbert Moore.
This is a final subdivision plan for the purpose of subdividing 3 existing tracts of common ownership totaling 4.02 acres into 2 new residential building lots. The property is located on the southeast corner of Elmerton Avenue and 39th Street and is in the R2 medium density residential zoning district. The plan was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission contingent on approval of the following waivers. Section 22404 preliminary plan approval, Section 22403B5 drawing scale, and Section 221102 monuments.
All right, is there a motion on the waivers requested?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Planning Commission attached the following conditions for approval of the plan. Sidewalks are required to be installed on Lot 2 at time of development. A sewer easement is to be provided on the plans for the adjacent lots. And they need to address all the remaining comments provided by staff, the township engineer, and the Dauphin County Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Good second. Just one question, 2 questions. The sewer easement is as was last drawn at our last meeting, so that it connect the properties on Elmerton
The
Avenue?
sewer easement showing both locations, so it has 2 options available.
Okay.
It goes kind of up the middle of the lot and then across pretty much the back of those other homes in that the new property that'll be
Okay,
where the existing home is.
okay.
So there's 2 options that when they go to develop the lot, they'll have different ways to address the issue.
Okay, and at that point, do we engage the neighbors on Elmerton Avenue? There's been a chronic, they're on lot systems, and it kind of washes down into this field that we're proposing to subdivide. And we've been looking at this for years as a way to take care of this problem. Thankfully, the owner is willing to work with us on this. So at what point would we, or how would we go about approaching the neighbors on Elmerton to make sure that they do tie in and take advantage of the easement?
Sure.
I don't know what that is.
I mean, typically it would, unless it's a failing system, then it would go through at the time of development. If their system's failing and our SEO determines that there's a failure, then they would have to be required to either figure out a way to tie in before that goes through or replace their system.
Okay. So
The intention is to, there's going to be additional development activity on the remaining track that's south of the lot that's being created where the existing residential structure is. So the easement in the interim will provide, to the extent that there's a catastrophic failure, it will provide a means for those folks to connect to the public sanitary sewer system in its current configuration. Once additional development activity occurs on the larger of the two tracks, the intention, at least discussed with the applicant, is the potential of the applicant actually doing a sewer extension, where they would extend our system through the property to provide more typical length laterals for those properties. So again, in the interim, if there is a catastrophic failure, there's an immediate public health and safety issue, the easement will provide the ability of those properties to connect to the existing system. To the extent that that does not occur, the intention is to extend the authority system, and then the laterals serving those properties would be more conventional in terms of the plan. But right now, the authority system is the southern portion of the tract. These lots that we're referring to are up on the northern portion of the tract, fronting Emerson Avenue. While they're within 300 feet, there would be pretty long laterals at this point.
So if you can see on the drawing, he's got in red where the easement is proposed to go in. It is shown on the most recent plans. And then the gray is where, on the bottom, is where the existing sewer main goes through.
Okay, for orientation, 39th Street is on your left, and Elmerton's on top, right?
Correct.
Okay.
These are the lots that have issues.
Right.
So right now, there's no easement to go from here to here, and we're proposing that as part of the plan.
And which is lot 2?
Lot 2 is this residual piece. There's about 4 acres of ground total. We're making about a half-acre lot with the existing house.
Okay. So the sidewalks are proposed for lot 2?
Correct. Lot 1.
Lot 1, the sidewalks are going in as part of this plan
Okay.
of where the existing is. And then lot 2, once that's developed, will be required to install sidewalk.
Great. I don't know if that's a bus stop there or not. Probably not, because it's so dangerous, 39th and Elmerton. But that's going to be a great public service to have that side. Right, Mr. Sanders?
Indeed.
Indeed. Okay.
A quick question. Just I passed this evening actually on my way here, and I looked at this plot of land and I thought that it seemed significant grade, but it obviously is not so much of a grade so as to be a concern.
As far as for the sewer?
Building,
well,
there is no building activities proposed on the residual lot. So again, the primary interest is the creation of that lot 1, where there's an existing dwelling for purposes of satisfying, I think, some financial concerns or financial, not concerns, but financial issues. So again, what was expressed to us privately is an intention at some point to do something with the residual, at which point, to the extent the grade is an issue, we will have to address it as part of the development process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have a motion, Ms. Urban?
Yes, we do, and a second.
And a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next up is Susquehanna Union Green.
So this is a final land development plan for the purpose of constructing residential dwellings as well as commercial office buildings and associated parking lots for Susquehanna Union Green. It includes phases 2A, 2C, 2E, 3B, and 5. The property contains 58.7 acres and 0.07 acres and is zoned traditional neighborhood zoning. The plan and modification to the design guidelines were reviewed by the Design Review Committee and were recommended for approval by both the Design Review Committee and the Planning Commission with the following conditions attached to the plan. Do you want me to read all these?
We can just reference them as per the agenda that's been published.
There's no waivers with this.
Right.
So it's just the plan.
Let's get the discussion going. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any comments? I notice the applicant is here, and down over his phone, unless he's here. Is there anything you'd like to say on the motion being considered? Mr. Barkett.
Good evening, everybody. Ralph Barton with Barton Group. As always, we just appreciate the working relationship. Every time we go in for a meeting, we get constructive criticism from everybody, whether it's the commissioners attending or the planning commission member, the township staff, and consultants. So really appreciate the working relationship and thank you for helping make the project better. We look forward to breaking ground very soon and getting the project, visible, not just on paper, but in reality. So thank you.
All right, anything else from staff? Anything else from the commissioners?
I don't have to do that.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up is the Neighborhood Design Development Ordinance Amendment.
This is a draft ordinance amendment that we've been working on that was submitted by Charter Homes to modify or to create a new permitted use in the R2 district, and it would allow basically some modifications to the some standards as far as setbacks and lot coverage and lot sizes in exchange for some more stringent architectural design guidelines. So they have a brief presentation that they're going to provide. So, actually,
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having us this evening. My name is Esh McCombie. I'm an attorney with McNeese, Wallace, and Nurek in Harrisburg, and with me this evening is Anthony Ferranda-Dietrich. Anthony, will you be using the slides? Thanks. With Charter Homes and Neighborhoods. I do want to start by apologizing. I saw on the agenda that there's a note that Charlie Courtney will be here presenting some background. For those of you that were excited to see Charlie this evening and his charm, I apologize that you have me, but hopefully I'll be more efficient. We're here requesting that you set a hearing date and potential action to follow on the zoning amendment submitted by Charter. The amendments to add a new permitted use with associated conditions and requirements in the R2 district. It would permit Charter to develop a 23-acre tract of land located south of Reichert Road and east of Crooked Hill Road. These would be single-family homes, and it'd be developed, as Ms. Logan said, as a neighborhood design development, which emphasizes design and function. The amendment has gone through many iterations. We appreciate staff's support and the Planning Commission's insight. Met with the Planning Commission 4 times, and they recently recommended approval, as did the County Planning Commission. As you see from the staff report in front of you, staff also has recommended approval. The general intent is to produce an attractive neighborhood feel. This is done through various required building and streetscape design elements. The amendment also would allow less onerous bulk and area regulations. Some of those loosened requirements are an incentive to implement the design standards, while others are intended to add to the neighborhood feel. The amendment is for the R2 district only and is permitted only on, or would allow the use only on tracts of 20 acres or larger that are connected to public sewer and public water. So the staff report does a very nice job of highlighting the design details themselves, and we can discuss them more if you'd like. But first I'd like to ask Anthony to come up and kind of describe Charter's vision for the development and why they think they feel this amendment is so valuable.
Thanks, Ash. Thank you, Anthony Ferranda-Dietrich with Charter Homes and Neighborhoods. Just want to take a few minutes this evening to talk a little bit about what we have planned for this parcel property and why we're proposing this text amendment to your zoning ordinance in the R2 to create this new permitted use. This is the property in question. It's, as Ash said, about 23 acres. It's really an infill parcel. It is adjacent to the existing Fieldstone Farm development. Bradley Drive and Driftstone Drive connect into the project and will be extended as part of the development. Paxton Church Road is down to the south off this page, and Progress Avenue is off to the east. Again, just off the.
Can you point to it, please?
Yes, it's the green tract.
No, I know what the track is.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to say point to the roads that you're referencing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This has a,
Yeah.
this has a.
Progress Avenue and
Yes.
Bradley.
Yes, thank you. So Bradley Drive is here,
Okay.
and Drifstone Drive.
And Progress.
Progress is down along here.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Progress is off to this side of the map,
Gotcha.
and Paxton Church Road is in here.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about the confusion there. So obviously, as I said, this is just an extension really of an existing neighborhood. 2 ways into the neighborhood through the extension of these existing streets.
You should be able to use
Okay.
the right.
Okay,
it
great.
should go through.
Again, this is the tract in question. You can see the extension of the streets into the neighborhood. Very kind of preliminary, just site plan that we offered up to the township just to give you a sense of how the project would be developed. There is some topography to this property. There's a ravine almost that cuts across the property. There's an intermediate stream channel here, so you enter in from the top of the property, basically travel down, all the stormwater is flowing to this end of the project, and you come back out here through Drifstone Drive. Sort of a conventional subdivision, but the reason for the amendment is to allow some enhanced streetscape and architectural elements here in exchange for an increase of 1 unit to the acre in terms of density. And I'll show you a little bit about what that would look like. And this is just really, I'll show you some examples of Charter's existing neighborhoods to give you a sense of the types of homes that we build and what we like to do in connection with how those buildings relate to the street. Under the R2, this text amendment would allow the homes to be brought forward to the street. Right now, you have a minimum setback of 15 feet. In this more of a traditional neighborhood design, these buildings would come closer to the street. Setbacks in the front would be less. Setbacks along the side of the home would be slightly less from what's currently permitted in the R2. The street itself is enhanced with street trees, obviously, extra wide sidewalk. The buildings would be mandated to have architectural features such as front porches, variations in the roof lines, variations in the building material to create, so that you don't have a uniform continuance of the same home along the street. Again, another charter neighborhood. Part of what we do in connection with bringing those single-family homes closer to the street, we also enhance that streetscape with landscaping, typically small landscape walls or edging. This is an example of the landscape fencing that we'll do in front of these homes. Every home will have a post light. That will be in addition to your typical street lights that you'll see along the street. The types of homes that we're contemplating for this tract would be smaller homes. They'd be right around 2,000 to 2,200 square feet, so the footprint would be a little smaller than the traditional larger single-family home that Charter might build. This will be geared to what you might consider a move-down buyer, somebody that's looking for first floor living. 2 bedrooms on the first floor, including a larger master bedroom. The neighborhood would have a neighborhood association that would manage all the exterior landscaping and components that we talked about along the street. So a real general, just representative example of a floor plan that we would do. Again, master bedroom, second bedroom, 2 full bathrooms, kitchen, living room, dining room, 2-car garage. The ordinance amendment speaks to de-emphasizing the garage from the street. So we'd have a certain setback requirement that we have to meet so that the garage is not front and center along the building facade. It's actually set back. I think the minimum we ended on was 18 feet from the street, so when you're driving down the street, you're not looking at garage after garage or car after car parked in the driveway.
Do you have that's one of the elements I was curious about. Do you have a photo of what that looks like? Or is it, if I can visualize it, like, would the driveway just be sort of extended so the garage is set back?
This is, it's going to be very difficult to see just because these pictures are taken to highlight the streetscape.
Yeah, right.
So here's a good example.
But if you could describe it, would it be like a long driveway that's sort of off the street and...
Yes. So the driveway itself would be a minimum of 18 feet deep. The garage, two-car garage, would be set back at the end of that driveway. The front of the house, kind of these main facade of the house would be up towards the front of the street. So in this picture, for example, we're 7-8 feet off the street. The garage actually can't even see it.
10, 11 feet back from that.
That's right.
And set off to the side of the property.
It'd be connected to the house, but it would be along the side. What that would create, just if I come back to the site plan, is when you have streets that have like this curvier or this curvilinear appeal to them, what you're seeing as you're driving down the street is the architecture of the home, the front porch, the roof line, as opposed to a garage. So we worked, I think as Ash said and Betsy said, we worked closely with staff to try to develop an ordinance that spoke to some heightened design requirements, architectural streetscape requirements in exchange for, in this case, doing a smaller product on slightly smaller lots that are going to appeal to, like I said, a more of a move-down buyer, which we think that this would be an ideal location for them. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions you might have about it.
Just curious. Rectangular, the darker lines inside the lot, supposed to represent the proposed footprint of the building?
No, they're not. That's what we call the product box in charter speak. So the home will fit inside that product box.
That's allowing for setbacks.
So that this graphic is meant to reflect, the lot line in association with the setbacks on the lots.
You said the 2,000 square feet property. What is the starting price on a property like that?
Sure. So in this neighborhood, these homes would probably start in the mid to high twos. And then again, just this product box conversation, the buyer can add structural options to the home, which would obviously, options would push the price up.
A couple of questions. So is this a layout of sort of the proposal? And
this is what we're thinking currently.
Okay, if so, how many, number one, is there a common area or some sort of recreational opportunity?
Yeah,
displayed here?
There will be.
Okay.
It's not very well represented on this plan. This was actually something that we showed to the Planning Commission and to staff early on. That was a comment that we got. The plan hasn't been updated to reflect the minimum open space requirements that have now been worked into the ordinance.
And then secondly, how many units is that? That looks like an awful units for one.
I think there's 80 on here. This is a 23-acre tract. So,
Commissioner Fleming, just to further answer your last question, the ordinance is designed to have open space. In this case, it's kind of in the center.
Mm-hmm.
It's in addition to what's required under the SALDO. So you have some requirements under your SALDO, and then as part of the trade-off, there's additional space.
Okay, so you would
So beyond that, and Anthony, you can speak to this, my understanding is in addition to the common open spaces that are required by the ordinance in terms of the quality of that space, the intention would not be to dedicate that space that would be maintained by the association, so there would be fee and lieu payments for each of the structures as well.
I do want to just commend you for coming in and having the conversation. I think this is indicative of the direction the township's been going in the last few years, where we're trying to work in partnership with developers and builders, and really try and get on the same page in terms of designing something that's nice, that fits, and establishing some uniformity within our ordinances and things like that. So I do want to point that out and commend you both for that. Any other questions?
Would you go back slides? You were very nearly beginning to, I want to see where this fits within, you said it was in, yes.
So this is, as I said, there's an extension of 2 existing streets here into the tract. I don't know if Fieldstone Farm would mean anything to you, but this is the existing Fieldstone Farm residential subdivision.
And it would connect Bradley and Driftstone?
It would,
okay.
Yeah. This, so here's Bradley, and here's Driftstone into the project. The parcel zoned R2 for residential development currently. As I had pointed out, we had a number of very productive meetings with the Planning Commission and with staff to get the ordinance to where you see it is today.
Mr. Dries, just off the top of your head, this is high-density development, and I know we have a lot of townhouses in Susquehanna Township. Does this cause any concern for you in terms of the emergency ambulance access? Sorry?
Everything fits our parameter.
Yeah.
Or codes.
For access?
Yeah, we're good on. Are you relating to the access issue of years ago?
Yes.
On that 4-foot strip?
Yes.
I believe that's incorrect.
Yes. I could speak to that if you like. Yes, though initially when we were here in front of the township for more of a conventional subdivision, you would have seen a plan that has the same extension of these 2 streets in the neighborhood, but there was a snag with 4 feet of land at the end of each of these roads, having not been dedicated over to the township. They were still privately owned. That matter has since been resolved, which is why we're back in front of you. So if this ordinance were to be adopted, there'd be nothing in the way of bringing a plan before you.
And the turnarounds are sufficient space for emergency vehicles?
Yes. I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but it's we're not changing any or offering to change any of your
the streets aren't extra
right. Street requirements.
The street widths are consistent with
it's current standards. I'm sorry for the queries, but I'm not a fan of text amendments. We've done them once or twice before in a relatively short period of time, and I think they're good for individual projects, but they tend to apply everywhere. It's the law of unintended consequences. This is really cool. In fact, there are neighborhoods in other townships next to us that are designing exactly like this. Union Green, I think. Union Station. It seems to be very similar. What's the horrible ugly? How could this text amendment apply throughout the rest of the township?
And I think that was one of the concerns staff had, and perhaps it was addressed with the Planning Commission as well. And it's one of the reasons that it's limited to 20-acre properties in the R2 district, right? So number one, it has to be R2. And number two, it has to be a size that's sufficient. And I think that was because my understanding is that the Planning Commission and staff thought this could be a good first step to see how this setup works. And if it works well, then the commissioners could consider extending that into the R3 or into the R4 or elsewhere. But this is a nice way to kind of dip your toe in the water and see how it feels without going all in.
I understand. Thank you.
We also did look at all the properties that it could apply to, and there's not. The only other one really that we think it could apply to would be Stray Winds Farms is looking at possibly redesigning the part that's already approved in the township but they haven't built yet to go with this type of development.
Sure.
So, but other than that, we don't really have any large enough parcels in the R2 district to do something like this. They originally submitted with R2. We went back and asked them to do it a little bit broader, and then after discussion with the Planning Commission, we went back to the R2 just to make sure we're.
Thank you.
So this is a request for a zoning change. You also going to be coming in with development plans?
We will be.
Okay. And are they going to be conventionally offered homes, or are they going to be tied to some program?
No. No.
So conventional.
Yeah, conventional.
Get a
homes.
mortgage and.
Yeah, conventional homes, 30-year mortgages.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm sure the residents will be happy. That would agree.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there any other questions?
I just have one, and I just, for due diligence purposes, and if we go ahead with this text amendment, we're not, there's no risk of spot zoning or, you know, anything that's.
It's not a rezoning.
It's not a rezoning,
Okay,
it's just a-
it's a text
it's a change
amendment.
of the-
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and so the motion is to authorize.
Scheduling of a public hearing for purposes.
Do we need a public hearing? Want to do that?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, public hearing. And that's been moved and seconded?
No.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, and do we have a hearing proposed date?
Yeah, the October 10th meeting.
October 10th.
We should do that.
Yeah. Okay, what time? Right after our meeting starts?
Yeah, I mean, you can do
Let's
it
do it.
currently starting the meeting. Yep.
Okay.
Asking something that I already understand. This is just for residents. You're not, residential properties. You're not considering adding anything but places to live in under this type of taxes.
Single-family house.
Single-family homes.
Only in the R2.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
One more, I'm sorry. And this is just an overlay, right?
No.
Okay.
It's a permitted, it'll be a permitted use.
It'll be a permitted use?
Yeah.
Okay. Just for those specific parameters, R2, more than 20 acres?
Correct.
Okay.
Apply with the enhanced standards.
Yes. Wonderful. Single-family homes? No tax credits?
You're ahead of me.
There you go.
Just making sure I understand.
There are no other questions. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commission, thank you.
Finished business. Do we have any?
There is nothing to report on, Mr. President.
Mr. Crasser, do you have anything today?
There are a series of, there's 2 traffic studies and 2 requests for handicap parking that the chief is going to address.
Okay.
How's the cat, Chief?
Really good.
We wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Secure your
I thought you'd bring up the plate.
I'll do the handicap parking first. There was a request for a handicap parking space at 3027 Locust Street, Ward 5. And traffic study recommends placement of that handicap parking space. I concur.
So move.
Second.
Second, any comments? Locust Street, as opposed to Locust Lane.
Correct. Locust Street runs off of Laurel on the south side of Walnut, from essentially 31st Street to 30th.
So just to be clear, when you're approving the study, we're also seeking authorization to prepare the ordinance and effectuate the recommendations.
Dave, I just need you to speak up just a little bit more.
I'm sorry. So
That's okay.
in addition to the approval of the content of the study, we need an ordinance in order to effectuate parking, the handicap parking space. So we're asking for the ability to prepare and advertise an ordinance as well.
Quick
What
question.
you said? That's our motion.
Oh, yeah.
That's our second. You got that, Janine?
Yes.
Okay.
Quick question to you, Chief. This isn't the property that you and I spent some time discussing.
It is not.
Okay.
I think that's the one off of Laurel Street.
Okay.
Yes.
I knew it was in the general vicinity. I just wasn't-
Yes, right there by the
Thank you.
intersection. Yes. No, this is not that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Second handicap parking request is for 308 Fishburne Street, Ward 6. The traffic study indicated that it should be approved, and I concur.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
It's a traffic study on Gateway Court. 7. Could be wrong. There is a young child there that's hearing impaired. We did put a sign up there, but there's some ongoing speeding issues, so there's a request for speed calming. It's not something that requires an ordinance, but I think it does require your approval. I do concur.
So moved.
Second. And we need an ordinance for that?
No.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And lastly, traffic study at Laurel Glen Drive and Deer Path. It's actually like just streets change there. Laurel Glen, Deer Path, and Rockfall for a four-way stop. This study recommends a four-way stop. I concur with the recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
That's the second one.
I think. And that would be for the passing of the ordinance. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Moved in second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, did you have something?
I just wondered if you looked at the sight distance there.
They did.
Yeah, when you come to that intersection. The intersection's not the problem, it's the great big truck that's parked at the corner, in my opinion.
Okay.
But if you feel that it's
Yes.
necessary,
Yes. Commissioner, we are pretty discerning on the stop sign traffic studies that they have to comply with Title 67. So for the recommendation, it would have to comply with Title 67. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Krause?
There is nothing else.
Okay, Mr. Grubik, do you have anything?
We have our report in your packet, Commissioners. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thank you. Mr. Miller?
The report's in your packet, and as I told Commissioner Engel, Pitt will win by 3 on Saturday.
It's rather aggressive.
It's on the record. It's on the record. I'm willing to,
Not a microphone.
I'm willing to eat my words the next meeting.
Law Bureau coming in hot.
That's hit by 3 over Penn State on Saturday. Heard it here first. There will be picketing. It's just my lock of the deal.
Wow. All right, School Board, Commissioner Fleming? Yes, Mr. President, I will defer to President John Dietrich, who is in attendance, or would you?
If I may, I came prepared.
Yeah, absolutely.
I emailed these earlier.
Yes, this was a welcome.
I have a little bit of a list here because it's summer and we had some personnel changes, so I'll go through this here quickly. I typed it up, but it'll be in your minutes. The first two nice things, two class representatives. We put two of the students onto the school board as representatives. Jared Smith is returning, so he'll be the senior. And new this year will be Ms. Zoe Jackson as the school board representatives. Unfortunately, we had the resignation of Vincent Harper as the principal at the high school. We will be transferring Dr. Nicole Smith, formerly an assistant principal, to resume the helm of the principal of the high school. We approved Melissa Floyd as an assistant principal at the Susquehanna Township Middle School, effective at the end of August. That will be for a new position there at the middle school. Keith Edmonds as assistant principal at the Susquehanna Township High School. Keith will be essentially replacing Dr. Smith, moving, so we've had a lot of shuffling, so a few new faces. And also at a previous board meeting where we terminated the purchase of those two parcels. We were looking at the parcels that were next to the game commission, that big lot. I think many of you probably knew that we made an offer on that, wanted to check out that land. Just didn't fit to our buildability, the building requirements that we need. Yeah, the word I was trying to create just wasn't working for me. So we terminated that agreement. And I did want to mention here, we met with we have a finance committee. Before our last meeting, we met with Royer Bus, and they just wanted to talk to us, work with us a little bit. There's a shortage across nationwide, I do believe, for basically bus drivers. I mean, we're not the only district, at least in our area. There's a shortage. All the districts, they struggle with that. For some reason, for a number of reasons that we discussed, floated some ideas. Susquehanna Township is particularly struggling with this shortage. So I wanted to let everyone know if you know anybody that's interested, if anybody's interested, if you know anybody who's interested in driving, getting the CDL, or who has a CDL and wants to drive the bus for us, it'd be great. I actually mentioned to Royer, retired first responders would be, in my mind, ideal. It goes a long ways. There's an authoritative presence on a school bus helps with that discipline of the students as well, in my opinion.
What about retired policemen?
Exactly. But yes, exactly. That's right. You can have a seat for your CDL, you'd be good to go.
I'll respectfully decline.
Throwing some ideas out.
So we obviously get this back with there's been, every time you have a new face doing that bus route, they're filling in with management is what Royer's doing. Folks, the owners themselves are driving our buses pretty much every day. And of course, as they change routes, then the people are late, students getting picked up late, that kind of thing. Those technicalities happen when somebody new is on the route. So we're trying to minimize that as much as we can. The next school board meeting will be 2 weeks from now, so September 23rd. DCTS, Dauphin County Technical School, Dr. Grimm is leaving as the director and will be replaced by Dr. Karen Blue, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. That's it. Any questions?
No, just comments, a lot of changes.
A lot of changes. I think we had a few of the assistant positions to fill, but then of course Mr. Harper that's an unfortunate. I think everybody knows. I think it's public. He's moving on to Michigan. They reached out to him. We weren't able to compete with that offer.
He's going back home. That's his only
what it is. Yeah. So he was outstanding. But fortunately, we were able to also move up from already with Dr. Smith. Having been there for some time now, she'll step up and I'm sure do a fantastic job as well.
And I will say too, there's been, I talked to a lot of parents of kids in the district, and there's been a lot of consternation around the change, and it isn't the way it was when we were going to school. I mean, Sean is a graduate of Susquehanna Township. You had continuity.
2 superintendents in my 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, there was continuity with the teachers, with the administration, and it's just not like that today. And it's not unique to our district. It's really K-12 education writ large. I mean, people don't stay in districts for 20, 30 years anymore. It's just not the way.
You move around, you're all. It's the same small pond that we're all playing with, fishing in, and exactly. They move from place to place.
And especially if you get someone who's really talented, like. The chances that they're going to go somewhere larger that can pay more and, or go the private route are, enhanced these days, so.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. President, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you.
You look so
Fine report.
Thank you, Mr. Teacher.
School Board Commissioner Flood. Groundhog Day. Authority Commissioner Sanderson.
Yes, thank you. As we've mentioned in prior public meetings and in the sewer meeting this week, there will be a public meeting scheduled September 25th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Progress Fire Hall to discuss the stormwater utility fee, and that is intended to pay for stormwater infrastructure repairs, stream bank protection, and green infrastructure projects. This is getting to be the culmination of decades actually, and more recently years of federal and state mandates to improve our streamways and reduce pollution. So in these public forums, we're dedicating a lot of time to reaching out and answering questions. It's been ongoing, but it's always good to have reminders and more public meetings. And that's all. Thank you.
So September the 25th at 6:30.
Yes, correct?
Correct. Progress Fire Hall. Be there. Right. Indian Wheels, Commissioner Sanderson. You have anything, or Mr. Krasner?
Are we looking for volunteers?
We are looking for, we're always looking for volunteers, yes. So yes,
If you're interested in driving for Indian Wheels, please contact the township front desk.
Thank you. Shade Tree Commissioner Vaughn.
Yes, Mr. President, I want to mention a couple things relative to the Shade Tree Commission. Number one, the fall tree planting is planned in mid-October, the October 16 to 18 vicinity. And also, the Shade Tree Commission has had a vacancy for a good while. We have a township resident who's agreed to fill that vacancy, and I'd like to nominate Mr. Pat Carroll to the Shade Tree Commission.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any comments? We just have one to go.
One more.
Human Relations Commission. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome, Pat.
And that is all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Communications, Commissioner Pine.
Yes, Mr. President, in terms of the Communications Committee, I'd like to mention that there will be a newsletter coming out to township residents in early October. And I also want to mention the Communications Committee met today on the early stages of the Verizon Cable TV franchise agreement. Verizon representatives informed us that the township is basically built out in terms of Verizon TV service. They made a great deal of progress in the last 2 years. Negotiations continue. Contracts is expected probably by the end of the year. And that is my report.
Very good, thank you. All right, new business. Is there any? Okay, and as mentioned, we have one vacancy remaining, and that is for our Human Relations Commission. So we're really accepting anybody that's interested in giving back to their community a little bit. Do we have any commissioner comments tonight?
Yes, Mr. President, just, I actually need to amend my, I forgot a couple of things in the public safety report. Also wanted to mention that the Public Safety Committee is scheduled to meet next Wednesday, September 18th. And we'd like to thank Eagle Scout AJ Pawlowski for his project to build a 50-foot flagpole at the Progress Fire Company. We commend young Mr. Pawlowski for his ingenuity and dedication to the project and congratulate him on achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. And I also wanted to acknowledge there's another scout, yes, in attendance this evening, probably satisfying the requirement to attend the public meeting. So we appreciate that, so thank you, welcome. We hope you found it informative, and we hope to see you back sometime. Was it super boring? I like it.
He nailed it.
Thank you for your candor. But no, thank you so much for your attendance. We appreciate it. And
This is what you have to look forward to.
That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Before we pay some bills, Sean?
Mr. President.
Yes.
Board of Commissioners generally, please accept my motion to accept the report of bills paid, and it was a large one, in the amount of $1,133,601.27.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. That was a light.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Yep.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
You're out of here.
Roger, man.